Hello, property managers. This is the Fair Housing Insiders. Today, we are going to be talking about how to deal with an appeal to an application denial due to criminal history screening. It's a complicated topic. I'm sure it makes some people nervous, but that's why we're here. Let's jump on in. Hello, property managers. I am Michael Coughlin with the Fair Housing Institute. With me, as well as Leslie Tucker, also of the Fair Housing Institute. And this is the Fair Housing Insiders. Today, we are going to be talking about a really complicated topic. That is how to deal with an appeal that when an applicant gets denied due to their criminal history screening. So we're going to kind of start this topic off with a little bit of a scenario. So let's say that we have somebody that came in to apply for a unit, and the criminal history screening popped up that they had an assault with a deadly weapon charge 6 years ago. Now, obviously, this is going to set off some red flags. So just right off the bat, Leslie, does this sound like a reasonable red flag for a property manager to bring up? And is it something that normally you think it is reasonable to deny the application?
So, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty complicated topic, and it's complicated because, generally property management companies that have discretion over their own policies. I'm certainly not going to dictate a policy to anyone, but I will say that, what we're talking about in this specific scenario, we're talking about a violent felony from 6 years ago. Lots of my clients have policies that would keep someone out that had this on their criminal background. Do I think that is unreasonable? Probably not. However, there have been changes, very recent changes that could affect this, right? So specifically with HUD subsidized properties, you are now going to be subject to the new HUD regulations. As of the date of this filming, those HUD regs have not been finalized and published. By the time you are watching this episode, they probably will have been. But those regs do set a look back period of 3 years. So this specific conviction would fall into that category. So this would fall outside of those 3 years. Therefore, you wouldn't be able to look at it or consider it. What if you're not a HUD subsidized property? Would you be able to look at this type of conviction from 6 years ago? We don't really know, whether this would be considered unreasonable or not. If I had to guess right now, I would say probably not. It probably wouldn't be considered unreasonable as long as you could back it up. Why do you have this policy? Do you feel like, this is going to have an effect on your resident safety, the health and safety of your overall community? You have to have a legitimate, non-discriminatory business reason for any criteria that you set up for your property. So that's kind of the best response that I can give right now without knowing more concrete guidance from HUD.
Sure. I mean, obviously, using your best discretion, following the rules and laws that Fair Housing set forward. Guys, this is complicated stuff, but guess what's not complicated? Hitting that like and subscribe button. Make sure to share this video with your network because, guys, we all need this kind of education. So, Leslie, let's kind of throw a quick curveball into the mix here. We're going to stick with our original scenario. 6 years ago, assault with a deadly weapon. They were denied in their application. Now, they do get a chance to appeal, obviously. And so during that process, you find out from the applicant that they were denied that they were a veteran with PTSD and are currently getting treatment to deal with this same issues that caused that assault with the deadly weapon charge. So how does that change things for us here?
It could change things pretty drastically, actually, because what they're doing is they're requesting a reasonable accommodation to your eligibility criteria. And that's certainly a legitimate reason to ask for a reasonable accommodation. They're saying, look, that my record is what it is because I have this disability, PTSD, because I'm a veteran and, I'm doing things to change deal with my disability, to change my behaviors, my impulses, things like that. I'm going to be a good tenant. These are the things that I'm doing to ensure that I can be a good tenant. Those are things that can be set forth in an appeal that a property management company really does need to look at and consider. HUD has made it very clear over and over and over again, not just for subsidized properties, but also for conventional properties, that if someone does bring these mitigating circumstances to your attention, you really do need to consider them. Without knowing all the facts here in our scenario, I couldn't really say one way or another whether you should overturn the denial, but it's certainly something that you would need to consider.
Sure. That's understandable. And just to kind of get it out of the way for our audience, just because someone appeals a denial doesn't mean that management automatically has to overturn its decision, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Every appeal is going to be different because different information is going to be shared with you. So you really do need to consider it on a case-by-case basis. But you do need to consider every appeal for sure.
That makes sense. Okay. So finally, we've gone through this process. We're now at the appeal stage, and we're going to have to start going through that. Just to kind of help our audience out, what are some best practices when conducting an appeal meeting to make sure that management is being objective and that we're giving the applicant a really fair shot?
Yeah, that's such a great question, especially right now with all of the changes happening within this process. The scary thing, at least for me, when I'm thinking about, the requirements for doing appeals, otherwise known as individualized assessments, is making sure that you are staying as objective as possible. When you insert subjectivity into this process, you are almost potentially inviting additional fair housing issues into the mix, right? So having a consistent process for your appeals, for example, who is going to be conducting appeals? You should have a kind of consistent process for who conducts them. You should have a consistent checklist for what you're looking for. Are you looking for information on, what the applicant has done with their time since their conviction, how long it's been, what the nature of their conviction was. So all of these things that need to be considered should probably be on some kind of document or checklist, so you know kind of what you're looking for. Some companies are assigning like a point system to these items that you are looking for. So any way that you can try to be as consistent and as objective as possible, while also considering each appeal on a case-by-case basis, is kind of the best advice I can give. Like I said, every appeal is going to be different. Every applicant is going to be different. But if you are challenged on any of these decisions, can you go back and look at your notes, look at your documents, and definitively say, this is why I overturned this denial. This is why, we stayed consistent on this denial for these different reasons.
Well, you got to love fair housing, case-by-case basis and consistency all at the same time. Nobody said this stuff was easy, guys, but that's why we are here. That's why Leslie is here to break it down for you. A really delicate topic and that you do not want to get caught off guard on. So again, we were talking about how to appeal when an applicant is denied due to criminal history screening. Leslie, thanks so much for kind of walking us through all those different processes. Again, I'm Michael Coughlin, and she's Leslie Tucker with the Fair Housing Institute. This has been the Fair Housing Insiders. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Happy training.